threats of revenge against Israel are now rising. Iran is promising that the Jewish state will pay after 2 explosions killed people at a memorial service in the city of Kerman. And Hezbollah is warning that Israel will be punished for the assassination of a top terrorist leader in Beirut.
The latest war of words points back to the real culprit behind all the attacks on Israel, Iran. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl has that story.
Iran blamed Israel and the U.S. for 2 explosions that killed more than 100 people at a ceremony in Iran to commemorate Revolutionary Guard Corps-Quds commander Qassam Soleimani. Soleimani was killed 4 years ago in a U.S. drone strike. In front of a crowd shouting death to Israel and death to America, Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi called the blasts a barbaric act against innocent people.
I warn the Zionist regime, without doubt for this crime and the other crimes you commit, you will pay a price that will make you regret badly.
State Department spokesman Matthew Miller says it's too early to know what was behind the twin blasts in the city of Kerman.
The United States was not involved in any way, and any suggestion to the contrary is ridiculous. And number 2, we have no reason to believe that Israel was involved in this explosion.
The explosions came one day after a top Hamas leader, Deputy Commander Saleh Arouri, was killed in an explosion in a Hezbollah-controlled neighborhood of Beirut.
With respect to the development yesterday, I will say that al-Arouri was a brutal terrorist who was centrally responsible for the attacks of October 7th, as well as other attacks against innocent civilians leading back to well before October 7th.
Hamas blamed Israel for Arouri's death, and Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah called it a very dangerous development and promised punishment for it. Hezbollah continues to launch attacks against Israel's northern border, and Israel is responding, striking Hezbollah strongholds inside Lebanon. The White House says it's trying to keep the war between Israel and Hamas from spreading.
Of the force posture changes that the president has ordered in the region has been designed to prevent an escalation or widening or deepening of this conflict. As we've said before, we don't want to see it widen beyond Israel and Hamas. And again, we're going to keep working with partners in the region to prevent that from happening.
On a visit to the northern border after Hezbollah's ongoing attacks, the Israel Defense Forces Chief of Staff says Israel is prepared to deal with the Iranian-backed terrorist organization.
Based on my impressions, we are in a very high state of readiness in the north. I visit here often. I think our readiness is at its peak. There is a lot of expertise, great capabilities, and high morale. We are in very high readiness in all sectors, and we are currently focusing on fighting Hamas.
Iranian opposition activist Vahid Beheshti says he's devoted his life to standing against terrorism. He's urging Israel and the West to fight the terror groups, but not to ignore the head of the snake, the Iranian regime.
Their first principle of Iranian regime is this: an elimination of the state of Israel since 44 years ago. And they've been really active about it. Look how many proxies they have been created around Israel. Of course, we have to eradicate Hamas completely, Hezbollah completely, other terrorist group completely, but mainly we have to go to the root of the problems.
Beheshti, who spoke in the Knesset, Israel's parliament, tells CBN News the Hamas massacre of Israelis on October 7th proved to the world the brutality and barbarism that's in the Iranian regime.
We have this big cancer in the Middle East. We need a proper surgery. Of course, it's going to be painful. It's going to be bloody, sorry. But to get cured, we need to go to the root of the problem. And that's Iranian regime.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Well, I'll add another layer to the root of this, and the root of it is radical Islam. You go back to the attacks at the World Trade Center, and what's the root of that? I mean, they wanted to say it's al-Qaeda, it's Wahhabi Islam coming out of Saudi Arabia. And so we declare we've achieved victory over al-Qaeda. Well, then it morphs into ISIS, it morphs into the Taliban, it morphs into all these other variants, all of which say we're the true Islam, we're the true Muslims, and we're struggling against all the infidels. That's the source of this. We've done reports on the Mahdi and how that's Iranian ideology, a particular strain of Islam that says the Mahdi is going to emerge when Jerusalem is taken and Israel is wiped off the map. But you keep eliminating Hamas, Hezbollah, the Palestinian Front, all of these things are all evidence of a radical ideology until it changes fundamentally, where you can no longer claim you're a good Muslim if you create terror, if you become a terrorist and you die as a martyr, and all the Shaheed memorials to you, the Palestinian Authority paying your family based on the number of Israelis that you kill. Until that ideology is eliminated, we're going to see this morph again and again and again. Our battle needs to be one of ideas. Yes, we need to defend Israel. Yes, what happened on October 7th is absolutely horrific. What's happening right now on the northern border of Israel, horrific. The statements coming out of Iran, horrific. We need to believe what they're saying. Most importantly, we need to stand against it and say, this is not right. This has to change. Well, one of the worst attacks against Israel on October 7th came at the Nova Music Festival. Now that scene has become a memorial of the horrors of the terrorist massacre. Chris Mitchell brings us that story.
Videos from that day at the Nova Music Festival show hundreds of young people running for their lives. Many seen being taken hostage, while others died at the hands of terrorists. Here on the grounds of the Nova Music Festival, they have pictures of all those who were murdered or kidnapped on October 7th. Hamas murdered 375 that day. That alone would have made it the second largest terror attack in history. Now this place has become a shrine of sorts where soldiers and civilians come to remember and reflect.
It's tough. It's a tough feeling. I'm also a member of the tribe, the trance, the music, the festivals. I have a lot of friends that were here. I lost a relative. I just saw his picture. You're walking here and you feel the atrocities.
The site lies just a few miles from Gaza, where the sound of Israeli artillery fills the air.
I feel horrible. I feel deep sorrow and distress when I see all those faces of young, innocent people, so beautiful, so young, that came here to, to have a party of peace and love, and were murdered brutally.
A new exhibition opened in Tel Aviv to recreate the festival grounds attacked on October 7th and honor its victims. Some of the bodies were so badly burned during the attacks that there's little left to identify. For this soldier, it's a reminder of why he's fighting just miles away.
As you can hear, it's still a war zone here, but this place was a massacre. It wasn't a military encampment, nothing of the sort. It was just a massacre. People were slaughtered here. And a lot of other things that I can't really say on camera, but it's horrible. We just went out for a little bit of to get some air. We came here to remind ourselves what we're doing. Yep, that's why we're here.
Hundreds of burnt cars littered the road next to the festival that day. This IDF officer fought just down the road while his son fled the music festival.
He ran away from the party with two other girls of his, and they actually ran from here towards Kibbutz Patish, or Mushav Patish. It was a journey of about 2.5 hours.
They kept phoning each other.
I told him, I can't help you. Because I was on the main road about 4 or 5 kilometers down. I had a fight with some terrorists, and I was stuck and he was stuck. And he wanted help, and I couldn't help him. And I told him, there's no police, there's no army. Figure it out by yourself. You're a big boy. He's 24-year-old.
He did figure it out, and the 3 survived, although there's still much sadness.
And he lost a lot of friends here. A lot of girlfriends and boyfriends here he lost at the party. And he's been going to all the funerals and the memorials.
His father came with a message.
Don't forget. Don't forget anything, because we tend to forget. Everyone has a short memory, and after a month or 2 months or a year, you come back here, you'll see there'll be red puppies here, and you'll forget. Don't forget, that's all. Like we're not allowed to forget the Holocaust. We're not allowed to forget what happened here.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, from the site of the Nova Music Festival.
We don't forget 9/11, and we won't forget 10/7. We need to keep these horrors in mind and realize we're in a battle, and it's a battle of ideology. And as we're in that battle, let us remember Hamas still holds hostages. They still are firing rockets into Israel. All the calls for ceasefire need to begin with Hamas has to release its hostages. Hamas has to stop firing rockets. Hamas needs to unconditionally surrender, lay down all their weapons, and give up to the IDF. That all needs to happen. And in the case it does happen, then this horrible war will cease. Any call for ceasefire needs to begin with Hamas.